My name is Marija Jovanović and I'm a digital communication expert. Today and in this video I will be talking about what you need to create a social media campaign, what is even a social media campaign, what steps you should take before and after you create one, and what are the measurements that you can use in order to know whether your campaign was successful or not. So let's begin from the very beginning. What is a social media campaign? I would simply put it into words saying that a social media campaign is actually a process where using the tool of social media, you create something which can sell, promote, teach, educate, whatever you want to do, whatever your goal tells you you should do, a social media campaign can do. Within a social media campaign, you will need to prepare certain things before you start posting it on social media. So I've defined around 5 steps that you need to take in order to have a consistent and, a proper social media campaign. First of all, as I already mentioned, you should most definitely create a goal of the campaign. When you know the goal of the campaign, it will be much easier for you to direct your work towards a certain specific thing that you visualize. And in that sense, it will be much easier for you to develop your social media campaign further on as the time goes by. For your goal, you can decide that to be whatever you want, whatever your organization needs, whatever you need, whatever your project needs. So basically anything that you can come up with. But there are certain things that you should take into consideration when you're thinking about the goal of the campaign. You should put it into a SMART analysis, which is actually an acronym for the S being specific, M being measurable, A being achievable, R being realistic, and T being timely. So if you put your goal within these 5 frames, it will be much easier to understand whether your goal is, as I said, achievable, realistic, in what time you should do it, how specific it is, and so on and so on. My suggestion is that you make your goal as specific as you can, because in that way you will be able to have mini steps that you will take from time to time. You will have that kind of small serotonin boost that will help you be motivated throughout the rest of your campaign, and you will finish it with much easier in a lighter note. So when you go through the SMART analysis, when you create this goal and you're satisfied with it, when you take into consideration all the tools that you need, and this goal is reachable as it is realistic, you will need to set up a timeline. This is the T in SMART acronym that I mentioned before. Not only do you need to have a timeline of when you will start your social media campaign, when you will start posting the first post of your social media campaign, when you will end the campaign, and when you will measure the data that you reached. Not only that, but rather also it has to have a deadline, because then your social media campaign has to have a deadline, because then you will be able to evaluate the success much easier. Also, in a social media campaign, you have the time aspect of when to post on social media, which depends on your audience, on the people of your target group, the people you're talking to. Then you have a time aspect when you're approaching the deadline that your organization has set, or the project is ending, and so on. So these things you have to take into consideration before you start your social media campaign. After you've set a goal, you need to go and define your target group. If we know who we are communicating to, it is much easier to create the content that's going to actually directly target these people. When creating the target group, there are certain tips and tricks that I like to suggest people use in order to create a more specific target group for their needs. One of the tips and tricks that I like the most and that I very often use myself is the tip of a perfect follower. A perfect follower is a non-existent persona, but it's someone that can help you guide your social media campaign when the communication part is in question. So when you create the perfect follower, you need to answer a couple of questions. These questions are based in 3 categories. First category is a demographic data. This demographic data answers all the questions, basic questions about the identity of your target group. How old is your target group? Where do they live? In which area do they live? Do they live in a huge city, or do they live in a rural area? Do they go to school? Which school do they go to? If they're employed, are they employed full-time or only part-time? Because then it depends how much time they'll spend on social media. After we define the demographic data, which is kind of the basic identity part, you go to the psychological data. Psychological data is important because then you get to think about the interests of your target group. Your target group has obviously different interests from activism. It has to be interested in the topics you share, but also you need to know why they're following your content. Is it relatable, or is it just that because they're interested in the topic? So you need to think about the interest of your target group. Is your target group interested in your content because it's relatable, or are they just interested in the topic? Why are they even following you? Also, within the psychological part of the identity of your perfect follower, you need to think about the problems that the group of people you're targeting is facing. When you know the problem of the target group, when you know someone's problem, it will be much easier to offer the solution for that problem, or for a set of problems that they face. So, for example, if you want to tackle the topic of ecology, you need to understand that your target group has to have had experience with the problems regarding ecology or something like that. Then, after we define the psychological data, we need to define the behavioral data. This data helps us understand how our target group behaves in the social media sphere. If in the demographic part we answered, for example, that our perfect follower is someone who is employed, we will most likely see that this person cannot use social media from 6 to 8 hours a day, but rather from 2 to 3 hours. Also, is our perfect follower someone who's prone to liking, commenting, sharing, or saving? Is this person prone to influencing? Is this person sharing their relatable content with their friends in DMs and so on? So we need to understand all these sets of aspects of our perfect follower in order to target our audience better. But our target group isn't only one person, and it's not only this perfect follower that I talked about. Our target group is everyone who's even similar to the perfect follower we defined. But we defined the perfect follower in order to have a guide, sort of a compass in that area of targeting people that we want to communicate towards to. So I hope this helped in regards to how to define your target group. Try it out and let me know how it goes. After you've defined your target group, obviously you need to find out the way to appropriately communicate towards these people. So if your target group is a younger person or a group of younger people who understand certain slangs, it is much better if you incorporate these slangs in your campaign. If you use the words that are understandable to them, if you use the words that are in trend and in line with what they are communicating with their peers and so on. So if you're communicating to someone who's, for example, a bit older and you want to find a common language with these people, it's most likely that you will use terminology common to them. After we've decided on the tone and the values that we want to promote during our social media campaign, it is a crucial part to define what type of formats and visuals we will use and on which social media. Because not all target groups are on all social media channels. Some of them are, for example, on Instagram, some of them are on Facebook, some of them only use Twitter, and some of them on all of them. But we will obviously not communicate the same way on all social media channels. On Instagram, we will have a specific way of using formats that are appropriate for Instagram. For example, Instagram portrait mode, or carousel posts, or reels. On TikTok, we will post shorter videos up to 3 minutes that are quick, that are fun, that are dynamic. On Facebook, we'll post horizontal posts or album of photos, we will focus on statuses, groups, and pages, which Facebook generously offers you as a user. And after we've defined all of these things, it is important to, in the end, evaluate our campaign and monitor the results, because in the future we will be able to better improve the things that we've done if we know where we made mistakes and if we find the spaces where there's obviously space for improvement. If you evaluate you evaluate in the end of your campaign, but you monitor throughout its duration. So monitor your campaign while it lasts. So some things you can change while it's still on. You can certain things are adaptable while the social media campaign is still ongoing. So these things you can change, while you're still going through the process of conducting a social media campaign. And after it's done, you evaluate the results. You see how many people you reached. You see how many people and which demographically which people interacted with your posts. So you can see whether your campaign has reached your target group, whether you have successful data based on likes, interactions, comments, shares, and so on, based on the numbers of followers and so on. So these measurements and this data can help you understand and see whether your campaign was successful or not. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, you can always contact me. Thank you.